Welcome to the Cyber Center for Biblical Studies. Hi, my name is Herb Bateman. Today we want to review a book entitled How to Read Job by John Walton and Temper Longman. Today we have with us Lee Compson, senior pastor of the Milford First Brethren Church in Milford, Northern Indiana. Lee, welcome.
It's great to be here, Herb.
Well, we're very glad to have you, and I'm kind of interested in this book you're going to review for us. What would you say the major thesis of the book is?
Yeah, this is an excellent resource for the book of Job. Number one, the main thesis, the main takeaway I got from reading it was it's important that we maybe reconsider our popular understanding of the book of Job, all the issues that are involved. It's good to maybe re-examine what's actually going on in that story and how we can then apply and even teach the book of Job in a much more effective way, maybe a refreshed way.
Okay. So what are some of the issues that are covered in these chapters? How does this book unfold?
It's got four major sections and a lot of different chapters, but the four major sections, first of all, are Job as literature. So Dr. Walton and Dr. Longman cover the higher criticism type things, the textual issues, how the book is structured, and they address some of the issues and how that then applies to interpretation, how that affects how we read it, how we understand it, and even can teach it. The second main section is on Job, as the characters of Job, actually. Job himself, his family, then his friends that come along and spend so much time going back and forth in that discussion. And then, of course, God and even Satan, the adversary. They do a great job in diving into what's going on in those discussions and debates and with those characters. The third major section is the theology of Job. The theological issues, the theological messages that are being portrayed. And the last section is an interesting one, almost a little bit surprising maybe, but how to read Job as a Christian. So how to understand the message in light of the New Testament and how it maybe not necessarily conflicts, but how it fits with maybe Christ and maybe how it doesn't fit where we thought it might fit. And so they do a nice job of working through those interesting issues.
What would you consider to be the most insightful aspect of the book?
Well, even non-Christians kind of know Job is a sufferer, right? So, we go into it, we kind of know the story, and even as we're reading those early chapters, we kind of go into that with that understanding, and that's kind of our focus, and that's kind of our assumptions or our presumptions about it. But they actually kind of turn that on its head and say, no, the real thing you got to look for is it's not about the question of suffering. Because Job, technically, the book doesn't really answer that. Job never finds out. I mean, we know the background, but Job himself and the characters, they're never really given a resolution to that. They say that the important thing to look for is, what are the reasons we should be righteous? Not why are we suffering, but why are we righteous? Because that becomes a very profound thought when you think about if God is still going to allow us to go through suffering, and if we don't have a reward right in front of us, why should we be righteous? Why should we maintain our integrity and our godly character? So that was one of the kind of more poignant insights I found that kind of made me sit back and really ponder for a while. They have a lot of different ones. They do also additional lessons and questions. They talk about, okay, what is that Redeemer Job is looking for? Is that the same that we think of when we're automatically applying it to Christ? And they talk about even the back and forth, almost legal trial that's going on within Job, and how we ought to understand that Job might not even understood his place, but the real thing, again, isn't even about the suffering. It's about righteous. Why should we live a godly life if this is what's going to happen? So really profound stakes really are in place to kind of interact with.
All right. Was there anything in particular you wish they would have covered? Every time you read, as an author, you're given a page limit, and there's only so much you could put in there. But so they can't all, authors can't cover everything. But if there was something that you wish they had covered, what might that be?
First of all, to their credit, this is the kind of book that I wish all commentaries on Job would have included. Their approach is excellent, and I feel like they answer the questions that get left out of a lot of commentaries. The one thing, maybe selfishly as a pastor, is it would have been nice to see how they might outline or present the book of Job in a sermon series. They get into some of the structure, and they kind of present some charts and things about the book, but it's it would be left up to me after reading this book to kind of put the pieces together and figure out what I want to do with it. That was honestly one of the real reasons I came to the book and liked the book, is that the book of Job is kind of confusing to me. I've kind of taught from it before, but it's just so repetitive, and you just go in cycles of the same thing over and over again. So it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this as a pastor, as a teacher? And they provide a lot of good helps, but it's the one thing is like I'm selfishly thinking, oh man, I wish they could have given me some direction as far as how to teach it. Would you do it in a couple big sermons, or would you still break it down? They leave some of those questions unanswered.
Okay. What other books might be helpful when you think about this book and what it has given you and helped you in your understanding of Job? What other books might also be a good complement to this particular work?
Sure. I know both Walton and Longman have written their own commentaries on Job. I believe Longman's is the NIV application. Walton is from Baker, I believe. So knowing what I know about this book, I would definitely seek those out as resources if I was going to teach or preach from it. There are a couple, they even recommend, they have a short chapter in the back that recommends commentaries and resources. A couple that they mention, I believe it's John Hartley, is from, I'm probably going to forget what commentary series. Oh, he's the New International Commentary of the Old Testament. And then there's Erdman's has one by C.L. Seow, C-L-S-E-O-W is his last name. And he has written a two-part commentary, and they really recommend that commentary for the introductory issues that he covers, especially in the first volume. The historical interpretations, he does a nice job summarizing them and analyzing them. They recommend that one. So I know, NT, on the subject of suffering, I think N.T. Wright has done some things. You can find a lot of things about how do we resolve in our own minds the tension of God who allows suffering and bad things to happen to good people. There are a lot of resources out there, but for the book of Job, those would be some of the main ones.
Okay. Well, Lee, thank you so much. Appreciate you sharing with us this book on how to read Job, and thank you for joining us. And as I think about Job and the potential it has for a series, I trust you'll pick this book up. It seems to be a nice summary that might help give you some good grounding for your preaching and teaching of the book of Job. Thank you for joining us, and I trust that you will walk with the King and be a blessing to all those that you come in contact with today. Thank you.